Okay, let's start again. Sorry.
Okay,
Under which circumstances was the state of Israel born?
The circumstances were war and a struggle to make the desert bloom in an area that was long neglected and underpopulated. Do you want me to expand on that?
Yes, if you can, it's better.
I'll give you a background.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, for hundreds of years until World War I, what they call Palestine was a small and insignificant part of the glorious Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire. And when the Jewish immigrants started coming to Israel, to Palestine, the area was neglected. There were maybe a few 100,000 Arabs, mostly Muslims, and there were some Jews, because there were always some Jews in the area. When they started to develop the land, they started actually to attract more Arabs from neighboring countries because they were developing it, improving the economic situation. They thought that the Arab population would appreciate the development and the improvement in the quality of life. They wanted to live in peace. But after that didn't work out. And after World War I, decades after the beginning of the modern Zionist movement, when Jews started to slowly come in, it wasn't because of the Holocaust, as people often say. It started much before that. After World War I, under the League of Nations, which was the precursor to the United Nations, it was decided that Palestine would be the national homeland of the Jewish people. The Balfour Declaration in 1917 declared that it would become the Jewish homeland, and this was solidified on an international scale in Italy at the San Remo Conference in 1920. And that's when it was solidified, and contrary to popular claims, no United Nations resolution since San Remo has ever stated that Israel must give away territory that it had conquered in a war of defense in 1967. That's basically a background.
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands of Jews came to Palestine since the creation of the British mandate until the birth of Israel in 1948, in accordance with international law. And they basically abided by the decision of the League of Nations that encouraged Jews to settle in Palestine, and they bought the land where they settled. That's a background to it, so you can take it from there.
Of course. And don't you think that Jewish people could live together with Arab one, like in the past?
Because they wanted to, but whenever, there was under the British, it was suggested to divide the land up. It was in a way a two-state solution, to divide part of Palestine for the Arabs and part of them to the Jews. And I should mention that what they call the West Bank is really the East Bank of the Jordan River. The Jewish area was even supposed to include that area. It was the Arabs that rejected any proposal to divide the land or to live together. Unfortunately, that's what happened, and to this day, there hasn't been a resolution to the conflict.
Okay, and changing the discussion. We can talk about singular person who has changed something in the history. How important is Theodor Herzl for Jewish people?
I don't know if I could say to the Jewish people. It's not a Jewish. He's not a Jewish symbol. He's a symbol of Zionism. He is the major. He is the father of modern Zionism. So to Israel, to Zionism, he is a major figure. It's not a Jewish religious. He's not a Jewish. He's Jewish, but he's a figure more in Zionism than in Judaism. I think you were asking also why Palestine, correct?
Can you repeat, please?
I think you were asking why the Jews came to Palestine, of all places. Is that correct?
Yes, even this is another
Okay.
question that I'd like to do.
Yeah. Well, the land of Israel, what's Palestine, it was actually ancient Israel. It was ancient Judea. It was renamed Palestine by the Roman conquerors more than 2,000 years ago. The land of Israel is the historic homeland of the Jewish people. Um, the 12 tribes of Israel formed the first monarchy in the land of Israel around 1000 before the year 1000 before the Common Era. The Jewish people have been praying to return to the land for nearly 2,000 years. And throughout those years, there were always Jews who were living in the land. The land was not there was never a Palestinian nation. It was colonized. It was under the Romans. It was under the Turkish Ottoman Empire. It was an insignificant part of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. It was after World War I. It was under the British mandated territory. There was never a nation called Palestine. There was never a state called Palestine in the land of Israel. And when the Jews were expelled from the land 2,000 years ago, they were expelled. They didn't leave willingly. This is why we have, for example, Ashkenazi Jews whose ancestors fled to Germany after the fall of the Second Temple, and when the Jews were driven out. And we have Sephardic Jews, as you know, in Spain now. That's a common topic because your leader has offered Spanish citizenship to Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jews' ancestors had fled to Spain. Yet, since the fall of that Jewish monarchy, there was never, ever a Palestinian state or any other independent state living on the land.
Mm-hmm. And what position does Israel have about an hypothetical Palestine state, an hypothetical Palestine as a state?
Well, for several years, and even this week, during a meeting with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Prime Minister Netanyahu has declared repeatedly that the people of Israel want peace, and that the main obstacle to peace is this is the government position, his position. The main obstacle is the refusal of the Palestinian leadership to recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people, although Israel would be willing to recognize a Palestinian state. And although there was never a Palestinian state, and under international law, they are not obligated to return. They are willing to compromise and to recognize a Palestinian state, but they insist on safe and secure borders and a real peace with mutual recognition, and not a situation like you have in Gaza where Israel left unilaterally. They drove out about 10,000 residents. It was a thriving agricultural area. They left the greenhouses and all the infrastructure intact, and instead they're getting rockets. So Israel is willing to make a deal and recognize two states and recognize the Palestinian state, but it has to be under the right conditions, where it would be, secure borders and a real true peace.
Mm-hmm. And why did the first guerrillas begin in the first place?
What do you mean by which guerrillas do you mean?
I mean the beginning of the conflict. Why?
The Palestinian guerrillas?
By both parts. I mean, why the first attacked by, I don't know which part, but how everything began.
Well, there was a very complicated history, but when the British were ruling, for instance, Israel came to being when they the British finally left Palestine. And for instance, I guess the most famous, if you'd call it guerrilla or terrorist, was the one on the King David Hotel when the Jewish underground bombed the King David Hotel. But what's important to recognize too is that they bombed the hotel, but they didn't want to kill innocent people, and they warned the British and the people to leave the hotel. It wasn't like they randomly went and blew up a cafe and there's men, women, and children sitting there. They warned the British to leave the hotel. So, you have issues on both sides, but there's a big difference there. And the Palestinian terrorism started way before Israel captured the land in a war of defense in 1967. The Palestinian Liberation Organization was created in 1964. That was 3 years before. There were wars. Israel was attacked within 24 hours after it was declared a state. So this has been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Of course, a long time. And one of the last question, what part did country like United States play in this conflict? And do you think if the Arab Spring made any influence in the situation?
Okay, well, I'll answer the second question first. The Arab Spring basically reminds Israel, and it should remind the Western world, that this is a very unstable region. It's in turmoil. We all hope that the Egyptian people will eventually live in freedom and democracy, but for the meantime, Israel is the only country in the region with freedom and democracy and equal rights for all its citizens, notwithstanding religion or ethnicity. The other question you asked about what part the United States plays,
yes,
basically,
about
in 1947, the United Nations countries, the United States was among them, voted to declare the State of Israel. The U.S. has traditionally been a strong ally to Israel. If they have disagreements along the way, but up until now, they have been a strong ally to Israel, which is a bastion of the West in a region of violence and instability.
Mm-hmm. And can you make me a reflection on this sentence? Land without people for people without land.
I don't know what you mean by that. If you can explain what you mean, I'll try to answer.
Even me, I don't know. Even me, what does it mean, man? But I read it.
I never heard that expression.
I read it in a lot of
Sorry,
articles, and I'm curious to know what kind of.
I don't hear you anymore.
Don't you hear me? Hello?
I'm losing the connection. You're not clear now.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So just if you can me a reflection on this sentence, land without people for people without land. What does it mean? This word, this phrase.
I can make something up. I never heard that expression.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that Israel was quite empty, so I guess it was a land without people. It had a few 100,000 people. There are recordings. I mean, Mark Twain, for example, when he traveled through in the 19th century, said you could I don't remember the numbers, you could drive on and on, you barely see anybody. It's a wasteland, it's horrible, there's nothing there. So I guess that's a land without people, and a land for people without land. Well, here you go. You have Jewish people who actually it is their land, and from thousands of years ago when they've returned to the land that did not have people.
Okay, and you talked at last. You talked about Zionism. Can you explain us what does it mean for the people who doesn't know what Zionism mean?
Zionism stems from the word Zionism, which is one of the words used in the Bible numerous times it's a synonym for Jerusalem. It's the place on Mount Moriah where Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac. It's the holiest area. It's where the Temple Mount currently stands. It's the holiest place. And Zionism is a is a national movement, national liberation movement of the Jewish people to return to its rightful home.
Okay. And the last question, Promise, do you think is it possible to reach peace after more than 70 years of war? Because many generations are being involved in this conflict, so many is very eradicate in his deep. I don't know.
All I can say is we can only hope. The people of Israel, I should say, continue to hope and pray for peace. The daily prayers that are recited 3 times a day by religious Jews, as well as in other prayers like the prayer after eating, for instance, after meals, include a heartfelt plea for peace. Oseh shalom bimromav is in Hebrew. They beg for peace. And that's the hopes and the dreams of the Jewish people. And as the late Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir used to say, when Israel's enemies begin to love their children more than they hate us, then we can have peace.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to add something, something that you want to say to to Palestinian people, to Arab people? I don't know, any message that you want to?
Well, just the message is that, like I said, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, hope and dream of peace, and we hope that it will happen one day.
Okay, Atara, thank you very much. It was.
And I also would like to say I think that most people in general, I'm sure most Palestinian people would love to live in peace. I think there's a problem with the leadership and with the incitement in Palestinian schools in the Palestinian territories where from preschool they're indoctrinated to hate and to kill, and children are growing up told that they should become suicide bombers instead of becoming doctors and lawyers and production. And I think that has to end.
Okay.
Because I think most people want to live in peace.
Of course, I think the same, and I hope that something will pass and everything will be good. And Olaya.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you so much to you, because it was really interesting. And Olaya, I want to say you hello, because she was writing you email, so she wants to speak with you only 1 second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atara.
A pleasure.
Hi, Atara. Thank you so much for the interview.
Are you?
Fine, I'm fine.
Okay, I'm glad it worked out.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, and we will send you a copy as soon as possible, okay?
When can I expect it?
We have to do some more interviews, and we have to traduce them to Spanish, but I hope in 2 weeks you will have a copy with the transcription.
Wonderful.
Okay,
thank you
so
very much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. All the best. Bye.